We're going to start with the opening of the cinematic. This is the scene that takes place in Chicago and Hong Kong. We didn't want to just do like Chicago at the bottom of the frame. We tried to come up with something that was kind of evocative of the scene, and the flashing neon sign just kind of popped into my head. Some of my inspiration comes from not just watching John's films, but some of the titles are kind of inspired by comic books, particularly Will Eisner and Jim Steranko, who used logos in very kind of interesting ways. And Hong Kong has lettering along the floor of this alleyway. This actual scene is pretty much follows the boards pretty closely. This scene was never really a problem. The only thing that we had a slight problem with was the reflection in the blood. But that kind of worked out pretty well in the end. Now we're back in Chicago. In this scene there's a box which gets knocked on the floor, which has a picture of Tequila and Billy. So when the foot steps on the frame, there's a cut to black, and then we're back in Hong Kong. We zoom into the gun, and the bullet comes flying towards us, and we cut to the Stranglehold logo. This was probably the first scene that we had a few technical problems with. The opening shot looks great, though the location was slightly changed from when I did the boards. I actually had Tequila walking up some stairs, so his POV and the boards are kind of different from the POV in the finished cinematic, where he's kind of on ground level, looking around the marketplace. My POV is more from a higher level, so that's kind of a little bit of a difference, but it gives the same effect. He's looking around the marketplace, trying to find this guy who's standing under this sign. It's a lot of quick cutting, a lot of quick pans. Gives a sense of he's looking around trying to find this guy. We zoom into the sign of the rabbit, and the guy's standing there, and he tries to get to him, and there's people blocking his way, and then when he gets there, the guy's disappeared, but we're left with a note. And he picks up the note, and this is one shot that I was kind of really happy with, where we push in through the hole in the badge into Tequila's eye, and that kind of really works well in the cinematic. So coming up after this shot is a gag that John and I actually worked pretty closely on. In fact, John acted it out in my office for me. The fact that Tequila, when he's sliding on the melon juice, has a ankle holster, and as he brings his leg up to kick the guy out of the way, he takes the gun out of his holster. In gaming, if you have that ankle holster in one scene, then you need to have it in other scenes. So it became, a big debate about whether we could do it or not, and in the end, we didn't do it. Next, we're going to show the first of two flashback sequences. These are a little different from the rest of the cinematics. This first flashback is with Billy and Tequila near the fountain. We decided to do both of the flashback scenes in sepia, just to give a little bit of contrast to the rest of the cinematics. Originally I thought about doing it in black and white, but we eventually decided sepia was a little bit more warm and added a little bit more to this scene because it's a romantic scene.
Afraid to be seen with a cop?
In a sense, I was thinking about older, more romantic movies rather than John movies associated with, but John's a big fan of those old Hollywood movies anyway, so we kind of had a lot of fun doing this. The fountain was a great location for it, and I actually wanted to use it later in one of the scenes which got cut.
Are you sorry you fell in love with me?
Never.
So this is basically a scene where Billy is telling Tequila that she's pregnant, and they decide to leave Hong Kong. It's a very kind of straightforward scene, over the shoulder shots, close-ups, but it's kind of an intimate scene, so I've kept fairly tight on the characters for the whole scene until the end when she walks away.
You don't know him the way I do.
Again, this was one of the easiest scenes that we had to do. It ended up looking great. I was very, very happy with it.
I don't care.
When?
Tonight, meet me at the airport. I'll take care of everything.
Yes.
This is the second of the flashback sequences. This is the airport scene. Of all the scenes I did, I think the airport scene is probably one of my favorites. It was very easy to do, and I did it very quickly, and we really actually changed virtually nothing in the scene. This is Tequila waiting for Billy at the airport, and she's not going to show. It's raining, and there's a lot of mood to it. I was, thinking about kind of films like Casablanca when I was doing this.
If you laid a hand on her.
Don't be dumb. She's gone, that's all.
So this was a nice thing. Obviously it's raining and he's reading a note. As he's reading the note, that the ink's running. So it was a nice little visual touch to the scene.
I got a message for you too.
And I was very happy with this scene here where I did kind of mixed dissolves to see the length. He was being beaten up and kept wide on the whole scene rather than going close in like you normally do on a John Woo. So I don't think this scene needed that kind of action. It was a very different scene to the other action. Next we're going to show the garage scene. I came up with this gag that John was very happy with, and we thought it would work great. And there was just one simple problem that we hadn't thought of, and something you don't think about like if you're doing live action or even animation. The fact that they only built one level of the parking lot, and the gag that we wanted needed Tequila to leap to the second level.
Let me know.
Here we just have the car, shooting at the car, and it swerves away from Tequila and blows up. In the boards we had him shooting in the car and the guys got killed, and the car still was moving along, and Tequila leaps over the barrier and shoots, blows out one of the tires and lands down on top of another car on a level below. And as he's lying on the top of another car on his back, he starts shooting up at the car as it drives over him. So we have a nice shot of the bullets inside the car. Shots going to the underbelly of the car crashes, rolls away and blows up. The next scene is a big scene with young Gi, Wand and Tico in the slums.
Looks like Tico's daddy ain't gonna make it.
The rain works really great on the scene, and the colour on the scene I think works really well. After this initial talking heads kind of scene, we get into an action scene that's slightly different from what the boards are. Mainly because one of the levels was cut out where we had another fight scene. Young had to be killed in this scene where I was going to kill him in a different section of the slums after this scene took place. The script was moved around a little bit, and you'll see in this cinematic scene there's a big standoff as well, which wasn't in the original boards. The opening shot, all this stuff, follows the boards pretty well. I always had a little bit of a problem with the height level, but I think they adjusted that to a degree. It always seemed that Young was looking down too much.
My suit is getting wet.
I need to see the girl first.
So you can blow her brains out in an ancient and honorable manner?
Honor sometimes requires that bad blood be drained.
You think Tico's father would agree?
Fortunately, he's no longer a concern.
You say that like you believe it.
This is a nice entrance that they devised. So this is a great shot with Tequila running through the alleyway. I envisioned like a wheelbarrow type cart where Tequila could jump in, and as he jumped in, the cart would come up and cover him. So if you look at the boards, you get a sense of Tequila running and hitting the handles of the wheelbarrow, then jumping in the wheelbarrow as it comes up to give him cover. So he's firing at them, and they're firing back, but he's protected by the wheelbarrow. The actual cinematic scene is a bit longer. They wanted to, as I said, kill Young off in that area, whereas in the boards we moved to a different area of the slums where Tequila is underneath Young in this broken down building, and he's firing at him as he leaps off the building. And this one he leaps back and does a twist in midair and lands underneath him, and again fires up through the floorboards, and Young gets killed that way and then eventually falls off. we're going to see the cinematic, then we'll see how he was killed in the previous scene. And then from this point, there's just a lot of firing at each other, but they still use the gag with the wheelbarrow, and also added a shot with the killer using one of the men he's killed as protection.
Your plan has failed, gentlemen, and I have the prize.
I've enjoyed the experience of working on the video game tremendously. It gives me an opportunity to see right through to the end. When I'm working on feature films, I tend to do the boards, and then that's the last time I'm kind of involved with the scene. They go off and they shot some location that I never go to, or some set that I never visit. But on this particular project, I did the storyboards, and then I've been kind of looking at all the final animatics and giving them advice and supervising some of the animation to make sure they're what John wanted.